Well, hello. For this particular short video clip, I want to point out that when you're talking about a rapidly changing, unpredictable environment where things can be changing on the spot a lot of times, a lot of things can become very emotional. You can get a lot of people that it creates stress within a team and all of that. I just want to point out a simple idea that actually was presented for the first time in more of a sort of a spiritual context with Dr. David Jeremiah. But when I heard it, I said, you know what? This is a key leadership aspect as well. And I want to share it with you with that leadership aspect. And it's simply this. When you got these challenging situations and you have people that are challenging and confrontational and all of this kind of stuff, what you don't want to do in an unexpected or unpredictable, challenging environment, what you don't want to do is what he called stand down, because that's cowardice. You also don't want to stand aside, because that is compromise. And maybe you shouldn't compromise. But you also don't want to just rise up like this and stand against, because that is contention and competition, which is not good for the team. But what you do want to do is what he called stand up. And stand up is conviction and courage. And I will simply tell you that that doesn't mean that you try to control other people. It's just you know the ethical basis under which you're operating on. I actually had, this was a long time ago, but there was one time where I had to tell another manager, I said, you know what? There's a time when a leader's got to make an ethical call. And you know when that is. There is a time you got to stand up. That doesn't mean confronting, and it doesn't mean pushing, and it doesn't mean controlling other people. But it just means standing for conviction, knowing some facts, being able to bring some wisdom to bear. But it also means when you're talking about courage and conviction, courage doesn't get knocked off a center. Some of you may remember that there's a couple of times, the only 2 times in my whole life I've almost had to use my black belt martial arts in public to defend somebody. I didn't have to, because they didn't know how to handle somebody who was courageous, but it was also calm, centered, direct, and didn't get knocked off center. And so it never went there. The other point that I just kind of want to throw out to you is that you may have somebody who's trying to knock you off a center so that they can accuse you of something, or get your emotions going where they can control you. That's what a lot of people will do sometimes. And if you see that happening when you're talking about this mindset, you don't just rise up and fight it and all this kind of stuff. You just don't let it knock you up or knock you off center. And it's real key to understand that leaders and courageous warriors, if you want to call it that, do not just sit here and go fight. If they need to, yeah. But that's not the first straw. And so it's interesting that when you're talking about this, that's a key difference. It's not about standing down to exhibit cowardice. It's not standing aside to compromise. And it's not about standing up against and firing up, okay, to be contentious and competitive and all this. You don't want any of that on a team. But you do need people to stand up with conviction and courage for the right thing. There will also be people that when they can't knock you off the center, they will try to persecute you. They'll do everything in their power to fire up any reactions they have within you so they can accuse you. And it drives them nuts when that doesn't happen. These kind of leaders that stand up tend to be protected because they're doing the right thing with the right approach and the right mindset. So I just want to highlight that to you. Think about this and how you act in your team. What do you see? What evidences do you see? Do you see yourself or your people standing down? Do you see them standing aside in frustration or in compromise? Or do you see them firing up and you see the emotions really getting fired up and constant conflicts going on? It's not standing against. You want your people to be people that stand up.